Yeah.
There we go.
All right. Good evening. Welcome. If you've just tuned in, my name is Alton. This is Talk at 8. This is the show where we have conversations on how sport changes people's lives on different levels. And today is no different. We are joined in studio by Zina and Pete and Bev, who all three have run the Comrades Marathon, and they all have a different ending. So it's going to be interesting to have a conversation and get their take on what Comrades is really like for them, how it's changed their lives, and how it's done things differently for them. So let them introduce themselves first, and then we'll get to the nitty gritties. Let's start with Zina. Zina, good evening. How are you? Tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, good evening, Elton. So my name is Zina, like you mentioned. I'm a social runner. That's what I call myself. And I'm a slow runner. So whenever I enter for any race, I run to finish. I don't chase PBs. I run just to finish the race. The first goal is to finish within the cut-off time. But what I promise myself is that even if I don't make it within the cut-off time, there is no did not finish, not unless I collapse on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So that's me.
And how long have you been running, Zina?
I started running in 2008, but then I stopped in 2011. Came back December 2022. So far I've done 2 Comrades Marathons and 5 Oceans 56, the ultra marathon.
Nice.
So the first Comrades Marathon, I did it in 2010, 15 years ago. I finished within cut-off time. My finishing time was 10:55.
Sure.
The second one was this year, 2025. My finish time was 12:17. So I didn't make the cut-off time, but I finished the race.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to park that there because we want to explore that a little bit. Bev and Pete, welcome again to South Africa. It's not your first rodeo to South Africa. Welcome back, shall I say, to South Africa firstly. And tell us a little bit about you. Who are you? What do you do back home? Where are you from?
After you, ladies first. Ladies first.
So I'm Bev, married to Pete. We are both from the UK, Essex, which is just outside London, a little way. I mean, to follow on from Zina, I would say that I feel like I'm an inexperienced runner. I got into running after Pete and I got together and I had Mary, our daughter, and decided that I wanted to be a good role model to her. I didn't want her to spend most of her life not doing exercise and then coming to it late when she could have had all of the benefits of it when she was younger. So I decided that I needed to be a good role model. And because Pete is such an enthusiastic supporter, which when you're really struggling can be a little irritating. I love you. I decided that I was going to start running without telling him. So I waited until times when he was out of the house to do my couch to 5K. That was in 2012. So I have I've only done five marathon or longer distances, and I think it's probably only now that I've started to accept that I could probably call myself a runner and maybe call myself a marathon runner.
Sure. So you've you've gone the full yards now. You're back in you've gone from 0 to hero almost overnight, Bev.
Possibly. I'm not sure about the hero bit, but
Pete, tell us a little bit about you, Pete.
So I'm married to Bev, funnily enough, but we are both from the UK. South Africa, we're back again for Comrades, just because it's an incredible place to come, and it's an incredible race, and it's more than a race, as we know. So that's why we're here. I'm here. I was here trying to pick up a back-to-back, which is a one-time shot, isn't it? So it seemed like the thing to do. From a running career, I suppose, or time frame of running, probably since I was 17 or 18. So sadly, that's 30 years ago, which is a long time. But predominantly started running just for my health, and to at the time I remember just to lose a bit of weight. I remember, and that was it. And there was a local half marathon that I used to get dragged into every year by my brothers who were faster than me, and my dad who was faster than me, and the four of us would do what is called the Great North Run, from Newcastle to South Shields every year. So that's what started it all off. Since then, I've done the odd marathon or two along the way, and Comrades was one of those things on the list that that was one of the things I hoped I'd be able to do, and the opportunity presented itself. So that's where we found ourselves here last year. I used to chase PBs. I'm getting to the point where they are now done and in the record books, and I'm not sure I'm going to go looking after those again. They were never outstanding from any elite point of view. They were the best I could do, and that's how I chalk them up. But yeah, now it's about enjoyment of running and sport itself. So yeah.
Peter, interesting that you have such a long journey, and we'll explore a bit about that. Tell me, how did you guys get to find out about this race called Comrades Marathon? Because I mean, you guys are up north, completely up north. How would you guys even hear about something like this, or what conceived the idea?
Yeah, so I believe it probably came from me, I suppose. Yeah, and a desire to explore something that's probably as hard as it comes, really, or as difficult as they come. A long way from home, and and something that's going to ask the questions that I think we all search for the answers to. So how do we find out of it? Probably because I probably saw a guy with a hat on at some point, or a pair of tracksuit bottoms that said Comrades Marathon, or an old bag at a race that I saw somebody I'd have a chat to as a young runner and said, "What's all that about?" And then so it goes from there. Then you start looking at. It's easy these days to find out about what it's all about, where it came from, what the history of it is, and then of course it draws you in. So it would have been along those lines, Elton, I guess.
And you've wanted to do it for so many years.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been together for 23 years, and Peter's wanted to do it since before we got together, and life has conspired because of the time of year it is. It's always when the children were in school, and because it's such a long journey, so, and then it was exams and all of that stuff. And then COVID came, and we probably couldn't have afforded it before. And then, last year was the first year, I think, when everything was perfect, when, the kids didn't have any exams, they were adults. We had enough money, there was no COVID, and you were fit enough as well.
Yeah, before I get too old.
Well, it's taken you that long to come to South Africa, Pete. It's hectic.
It's crazy. It's crazy, really. And it's sad because it's a beautiful place, and I feel like we've missed opportunities to come and experience it. So yeah, definitely.
Zina, Mackenzie says, "Well done, my friend. You are an inspiration on Insta, on YouTube." And you're welcome to drop your comments if you've just tuned in. We're chatting to Zina, Bev, and Pete, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. I'm battling to get Insta growing, but it will come up. Zina, what made you decide to run Comrades? I mean, way back you've done it, and then you stopped because you had babies, and then you decided to come back. Why? Why would you want to come back and put yourself through all of that drama again?
Because when I stopped running, it's because I chose to stop. The circumstances forced me to stop. And throughout those years, like almost 12, 13 years, I felt like there was something missing. And thinking backwards, the only thing that was substantial that I could say was missing in my life was running. And since I know as a runner, my strength is in endurance. It's not in speed. So running a marathon, ultra marathon, and ultimately Comrades Marathon is what I enjoy. Because I enjoy running for a long time because I don't have speed. So coming back, the only thing I looked forward to, the main thing, in fact, not the only thing, the main thing was running Comrades Marathon again. Because the first time I ran Comrades Marathon, I was inexperienced. I was a child, I can say. I was just running because I wanted to see if I could run it. So I felt like this time I'll be running it for a much better cause, if I can say.
Okay.
Because now I think I run more to motivate and inspire people. And also as a not so fast or not fast runner at all, I want people to look at me running an ultra marathon, finishing it, and see that running is not about being fast. It's about starting something that is challenging and finishing it. And no one is ever prepared for a challenge. So what I do, I compare life and running, because I believe most of the things that we go through in life, we can learn a lot about life by running. Because when you're running, you sometimes, especially with long distances, you run until you reach a point whereby you even questioning how you're gonna take the next step forward, which is like the challenges in life. When life challenges come upon you, left, right, and center, sometimes you even wonder, how am I gonna deal with anything? How am I gonna look at the next day? But if you just keep moving forward, after some time, you even realize, I don't even remember how I did the past thing. I could even run an extra 100 meters. And then after conquering that extra 5 kilometers, now all of a sudden the energy comes. Like you feel even more energetic than before. So I think that's what keeps drawing me back into running. It doesn't matter how painful it can be sometimes, because it can be really painful.
Yeah.
You think it can be really painful, or you know it can be really painful?
I know it can be really painful, and sometimes when during the race, you can reach a point whereby you're saying, I'm never doing this again. But then for some reason, after crossing the finish line, you'll be like, I think I can even go an extra 100 meters. So that's the thing about running.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, actually. And I think it brings about an equilibrium in my life. I think it balances things
That's
for
true.
me. And it's not always the solution to a problem, but if it's not, it will help find a way to find and navigate to it. So yeah, I think it's a real part of, and should be a real part of everyone's lives. It helps enormously.
Yes, it does.
So would you say, Bev, that your why? What is your why for running? Why would you say that you get up and want to exercise every day, or as often as you can? Why do you run?
Well, that's a question. I think as I get older, it's to try to make sure that I keep fit, just to keep things moving. I'm a great believer in the more you do, the more you can do. So as we get older, that we should keep doing what we can do to make sure we can keep doing things. So at the moment, I guess there's a little bit of that. There's a lot of me that enjoys it. It's time that I don't have my telephone with me. I don't have any, but it's very rare that I train with somebody. And it's time that I enjoy most of the time, unless it's a hill session. But yeah, I think it's just, why do I go and run? I have a drive towards something. Comrades was something that lured me in. I can find it easier to get out in the evening when it's wet, if I've had a rough day, if it's late, if it's whatever. I can find a way to get out, and that's a good driver to do that. It's easier to do that. So I can apply myself if there's a target. But I suppose role models are a great thing. I'm not sure I look at it and think, I hope that anybody is doing it because I'm doing it. That's a bit selfish, I suppose. But ultimately, yeah, for me, it makes me feel better mentally. It's good for me. And yeah, I guess it's a bit of selfish time to myself. But yeah.
Okay. Babe, why do you run?
Oh.
Probably not as fast as Pete, but you do run.
No,
That's
not anywhere near.
That's a significant thing.
No, yeah, I'm not anywhere near as fast as Pete. The times when we go out running together are often when our aims align. So I might be trying to run faster and Pete's trying to recover, and that's when our speeds will align with each other. But I'm okay with that.
Yeah, well,
actually,
that's good time.
It's a good time together. He pushes me, motivates me. But I mean, but my internal motivation, I think, I've talked about wanting to be a role model for Mary, our daughter, but also just for me as a woman, and a woman of a particular age. I think that there's huge. The health benefits are enormous. The weight bearing exercise that you do strengthens your bones. As as you go into menopause, it's not something that I necessarily want to think about, but that's the age that I'm coming into, and we need to think about it as women. I'm particularly clumsy, and I do fall over regularly, which amuses lots of people, but I haven't broken anything yet. So clearly running has given me strong bones. So, but I'm also really, really keen to share it with other people. And lots of my running over the last, I guess it's 15, 17 years now, has been about encouraging people to start their own running journey. So I started a little run club at the organisation that I run to bring other women into, when we do fun stuff, we do walking, we do, power walking. Some people have gone on and run, 5Ks and beyond. And I think that's where my joy comes. I like running on my own. I like the challenge to myself, pushing myself into places that I didn't think that I could go, scaring myself with some things like this weekend. But actually my real driver is about other people's running journeys, about bringing them on and sharing all that running and exercise can bring to them. It's a huge recovery thing for a range of reasons, emotional, physical stuff, addiction. If you can learn that, how to exact that natural endorphin high, then you don't need anything else.
Absolutely. And babe, if I look at the work that you do, you speak about bringing running into the workplace. How has that changed the dynamic and the healing process of some of the ladies that you work with?
It has been incredible. So for everybody listening, I run a local charity back in the UK which supports individuals who have experienced domestic abuse. And domestic abuse is a devastating crime, but one of the things that comes out of it is that some people end up using substance, alcohol, drugs, as a coping mechanism. It's either a product of the abuse or a coping mechanism to help them deal with the deep trauma that they've experienced. And we have a crisis refuge accommodation that is specifically for women who have drug or alcohol addiction. And we have introduced walk and talk and running into part of their program. And it is utterly incredible to see women who come very, very poorly to you with broken, almost broken in spirit and body, but to see them start to trust their body and to trust their body to do something that they didn't ever think it could, and to achieve and to get that flush of self-worth and self-belief, and to feel invested in, because we spend the time with them. We buy them proper running shoes and a running bra, because you need to be comfy if you're going to go and do it. So all of those things all build to their self-worth. And I've seen that like utter joy on somebody's face when they complete a 5K for the first time and realize that actually how they feel about themselves is something that they never thought that they would get, and they just want to get hold of it, and they want to go and do it again, and the next day and the next day, and you just think, wow, it's it's just phenomenal. It's an incredible process to be part of with people.
And that's one of the reasons why we run, is because we take people's hands and say, come, let's run the journey with you. And if I look at Zina, Zina's involved in a local running club in Cape Town called Team Vitality. And one of her members says Zina is such an inspiration. She always encourages us to run. That's from Team Vitality Table View from Andiswa. Zina, is that why you run? To motivate other people, or why are you involved in a club?
Initially, I ran because I wanted to escape depression. But the more I got involved into it, I got to realize that there are people who are not aware of what are the benefits of running. Then that's when I changed into running to motivate others and inspire others. So being a Team Vitality champ, I think it played a huge role then into getting me out of my comfort zone, because initially after I decided to run to motivate others, I was still running by myself. I was not running as part of any group. But then once I became the Team Vitality champion, I had to get, because I'm an introvert, so I'm not really good with people. I have to learn to be or deal with people. But being a Team Vitality champ forces me to be out of my comfort zone and get to motivate or inspire others into running. So then that became my why. But adding into that, now I also got a chance to incorporate running to raise awareness for autism. Autism parents and autism kids, or any other kids that are in the special needs spectrum. Because now I've decided that, because I have a daughter who is in the spectrum, I decided that also every time I run, especially these high or big races, I have to wear a garment that raises awareness for autism. So my whys are just spread out.
Yeah.
And also I run because I believe I'm a better person when I run. When I don't run,
100%.
I can say I'm the worst. I can be toxic, I can be grumpy, I can be anything. But I'm able to handle myself better and be better for others when I run.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No DNA, just RSA on Instagram says, I'm one of those people who never realized the benefits of running. And often we don't, because we run either because A, we want to lose weight, or B, because someone told us to do it. Not because we want to do it. And eventually it becomes something that we enjoy and something that becomes part of us, and it's part of our day-to-day activity without us realizing it. Like you said, Bev, and everybody, it's about that adrenaline. It's about that endorphin rush that gives us that feel good feeling that we want to go and do it. As frustrating as it is when you set goals and you don't reach it, there's always that drive to want to do better. And the benefit of sport is that
I believe that's one of the things that people don't understand or realize or are not aware of, especially people who are not runners. Even if, irrespective of how tough the race was, once you cross that finish line, there is a kind of high that I don't know how to explain it. I get a feeling, and I always assume maybe that's how people who do drugs or who smoke dagga, that's how they feel once they smoke. There's a certain feeling that I get, an excitement that I can't explain, a feeling of being content, feeling like I can face anything just by crossing that finish line, especially if the race was tough. Once I cross the finish line, I feel like I'm a superhuman, if I can say.
Yeah,
Just for
definitely.
after crossing that finish line, there's a feeling that you get that you can't explain. Someone has to experience it to know how it feels.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that can be for any distance. anybody's situation, because if anybody is out there running their first mile or their first 2 mile or their first 5 kilometers, whatever it might be, it's the same feeling, and it's just trying to enable people to experience that, so that then it starts them on a journey of of wellness ultimately. So yeah, I completely agree with you with that, Zina. Absolutely. I think that's really valid, really important.
Look, the wellness is part of it, and we don't often realize the long-term benefits, because like with many of us, we go through school doing sport, and then we leave sport because we get married or we have children, and then we come back because either Pete wants to run away from Bev, or he's got high blood or sugar diabetes, or whatever the case may be. So we come back in later life and realize that, shucks, I've missed this. This is what drives me, and that's what we need to try and get people to do throughout their lives. Jeanette on YouTube says, great show. I walked for a year and only started to run at the end of May this year, and loving it.
Yeah, it's great.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's great.
Looking forward to many more kilometers on the legs. My motto is run, walk my way back to health.
Perfect.
That's great.
Yeah, that's exactly
Eventually
what
that'll be run. That'll be run, walk my way back to Durban, I think, won't it?
There we go.
No, well done.
So for each of you, what was it like running your first marathon? Before we even get to Comrades, what was it like? Can you remember that for back, Pete? For you, that's like centuries ago.
I can remember, yeah. So I can remember. It was 2000, the year 2000, London Marathon. So I did it with both my brothers, Phil and Dave, and that was my first marathon. And so what was that like? I can't remember much about the race itself, but I remember how I felt afterwards. And I remember being in floods of tears, thinking that I'd achieved something. It was just incredible. Obviously, I did that before I met up with my brothers. Then afterwards, but I remember that feeling of elation, and I can't remember what I said after that, whether or not I said I would do another one or not. But I seem to have done some afterwards. But yeah, that was my first one, and then it was 11 years before I did another one.
Sure.
Yeah, and then since then I've done one or two since then. But yeah, so it was
one or two, you say?
Yeah, one or two. Yeah, one or two. But yeah, so it's this feeling is the same, and back to what Zina said a moment ago, which was when you cross the finish line, you get the same feeling. It's not your first, but it doesn't matter, because all you've been looking for is that finish line for however many hours it might be. And look, it can be many, and once you get there, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. So,
even though you do 20 or 30 10K or 5 milers a year, everyone is different, and everyone has a special place crossing that finish line. What's it like for you crossing the finish line, Bev?
So my first marathon was Berlin with Pete. We ran together, and there was a bit of a trade-off, because we both got into Berlin, and then Pete wanted to do Ironman Wales, which was the week before. I think the week before. So there was and he said, I'll do Ironman Wales and then I'll run Berlin with you. And I was like,
the recovery run.
Yeah, wow. I was like, yes, that's perfect, because he's going to be in so much pain that he won't mind how slow I need to run. But I remember that, and I remember I'd had an operation on my foot. So I hadn't been able to run for a year, and then I had exactly 14 weeks to get from no running to marathon. So I think the most I'd run is 17 in my whole life. And rocked up at the start line in my usual state of unpreparedness, and thought, okay, we'll see what we can do. And I sort of had some ideas of wanting to do 5 hours, And I remember at one point the 5-hour pacer went past, and Pete said, "Oh," he said, "there's the 5-hour pacer." He said, "I think we need to probably to get going." And I was like, "I don't care. That can go.
Don't care anymore.
I don't, I just want to finish." And then I also remember him saying to me, "Right, okay, we were getting towards the end, and I was doing a run-walk strategy, which is absolutely fine. There's lots of people who sort of come from the school of, if you're going to run, you have to run everything, but that's not how it needs to be. It's whatever gets you to where you need to be, and run walking is a fabulous way to manage distance. So we were run walking, and then we got to, I don't know, I think it was probably about 2 miles out, and Pete said at some point, he said, "You're going to have to pick a point and just run it in." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But I was terrified. I was in a distance that I'd never run before. And I was just thinking, I don't know whether I've got a mile left in me, 2 miles left in me. And then I think at some point, it was probably about 1.5 miles, I picked it. And then realised I had so much more left in me. So we absolutely stormed the last little bit and crossed the line. And honestly, I felt like a superhero and like I was invincible. But what it also did then, and I remember I turned to Pete because he'd literally just done Ironman the week before, which, is a 2.4 mile swim, 112 miles on the bike, and then a marathon after all of that. And I just looked at him and said, "Oh my word, I now understand the enormity of what you did last week, because I've just done the marathon and you did the marathon on the end of all of that." So it's like this whole sort of crashing realization came in about all that he had achieved over the years. But I was in that, that's one, I'm done, tick, bucket list, I can tick that off. And then I think it was about 3 weeks later, it was like I was, on the iPad, and it was like, I appear to have entered another one. How did that happen?
Can I just say, I was pleased that we ended up doing 5:28, because 5 hours would have been a push. That was sore. So yeah, I was pleased.
Yeah. Zina, what was your first marathon, and what was the reason for you doing your first marathon?
It's going to say
my
Comrades.
first marathon. No, it was my very first race as a runner, because I started running I think it was around March 2008, because I was just running. I was still back in Umtata then. I was just running in the stadium because I was depressed. I didn't know how to get out of it. So I was just running by myself in the stadium at the university, and then there were these 2 guys that were running there, them Chabe twins. They were like, "Sisi, we want to form a club in Umtata for a running club. Don't you want to join us?" And I was like, "I've never run in my life. I don't think I'll ever be able to run like officially or call myself a runner." They were like, "No, it's fine. Just join us. We're going to do it together." Okay, it's fine. What do I have to lose anyways? So I joined the running. We formed the running club, which is Cheetahs Athletics Club in Umtata. Then we trained. So my very first race was a 42 kilometers.
Yep.
Didn't do a 5, didn't do a 10, didn't do a 21, straight into 42 kilometers. But I always tell my friends that I was trained by the vultures. But fortunately, I managed to do a 4:55 in that race, my very first race. They were like, "You see, you can run. So next year we're going for Toshins." I was like, "What? How long is Toshins?" They're like, "It's 56 kilometers. And we know you're going to do it." I was like, "Okay, it's fine. Let's do it." So then the next year, 2009, I did Toshins, finished in 6 hours, 15 minutes. They were like, "Okay, next year we're going for Comrades." So I went for Comrades.
There we go.
I think that one of the reasons why I don't enjoy running short kilometers, because we were training very hard there. So we were mostly doing the long distances.
Yeah.
And as a result, I never got to enjoy the short distances, even in the races. Because I think also I got to realize that my body takes a longer time to warm up. And before I warm up, I don't enjoy running. But then once my body is warmed up enough, then I start enjoy running. So if it's anything short, like 5, 10, 21, by the time I'm warming up, then the race is over. So I don't get to reach that point whereby I'll be like, okay, now I'm enjoying this run.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. So you run 30 k's to sprint 11 k's to the finish. Is that how you work it?
Yeah, because if I don't get any injuries, like if I don't cramp or get blisters or any kind of injury or something I didn't plan for, my last kilometers in a race are my fastest.
And a lot of people battle to do a negative split. I for one battle because I'm a diesel. I run the same way as always, you know. So
I start slow and then I finish fast and strong.
Yeah. Your daughter's an LSS. She's very proud of you, mommy.
Thank you.
So let me ask this question then. So now that you all three of you have now run a marathon at some point in your lives, you decide to want to come and come to Durban and tackle this event, in your case, Zina, again, and Pete, for you again, and for Bev, injury and all, you decided to come to Durban. What was the driving force to come back or to come to Durban? Let's start with
you.
Start with me. So I came last year and watched. So I supported Pete through his training. You know, I tried to be the one feeding him all the right stuff and making space in his life to be able to do all of his training, and then came to South Africa and then experienced from the sidelines, which was just utterly phenomenal, but also excruciating to be on the sidelines as a runner, to see somebody else achieve, which I was so incredibly proud of. But you want to be part of it. You want to be in that. You know, you want the cap. You want to be part of how the whole thing feels, because it's not just the running on the day. It's everything. It's that community. It's that coming together of everybody aiming for a single thing, a celebration of, and I wanted to be part of that. Psychologically, I couldn't think about running up, so I thought, down. I'll run down. Without really, I suppose, realizing that whilst it says down, actually a huge amount of it is up still, isn't it? And I've spent the majority of my running avoiding hills like the plague. They scare me a bit, so I don't generally run up. I run in the opposite direction. So it was a massive challenge. I've spent my life with the mantra of regularly trying to do something that scares me, so that my circle around me doesn't get smaller. I keep trying to push the edges, and I have to say this is something that it terrified me more than anything that I've done in a long time. Yeah, the coach on the way to the start was very, very quiet. I think he had that, and anybody that knows me knows that that's not usual.
Okay, we'll park it there. Pete, why did you come back? Was it only the lure of the back-to-back?
I think there's a need to do. Well, I don't know. Is there a need to do the race justice? There's an up and a down, and maybe it's about doing them both to be able to say, okay, now I understand the race fully, and that certainly had a part to play in it. The back-to-back, because it's a one-time shot, because I don't think you can do one and then come back and do two at a later date. It has to be a novice, doesn't it? So that was a one-time thing, and so that was on the thing. But ultimately for me, I think I wanted to experience the race in both its formats, which was clearly up and then down. So yeah, having wanted to do it for so long, I needed to find some excuse to do it twice. So, but yeah, but I think, yeah, I think it was a bit of both, I guess. A bit of that, a bit of the lure of coming back. But I did enjoy it last year. It was incredible. It asked me some questions that I wasn't sure I had the answers to. I found some answers, and then on Sunday it asked me even more. So you know, I suppose that's probably why we do it to a degree. We want to make sure that we can do this and we can answer the questions that the race or any race will ask us. And going back to what Zina said, early doors, it prepares us for those sort of situations outside of running, which actually can be quite daunting if you haven't been in a similar place whilst out, being asked whether or not you can make it. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Zina, why did you decide to come back after such a long time?
One, because the first time I did it, I was doing it to prove to myself that I could do it. So I was doing it for myself, and I didn't enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't enjoy it at all. So this time I went back because one, I wanted to enjoy the race.
Yeah.
I wanted to be in like feel each and every kilometer of that 89.98. That's why I couldn't stop until I crossed the finish line, because I wanted to experience each and every kilometer. Two, I wanted to motivate, especially the people that we ran with on Saturdays as the Team Vitality champions from Tableview. So I wanted them to see, because I'm sure most people look at me and they don't see an athlete. So I wanted them to see that it's not about how you look, your body. It's not about your, mostly, especially comrades, because it's long. You run with your legs. And after some time, after some hours of running, your legs can give up, and then you have to run with your heart.
Yeah.
So it's all about what to tell yourself during that run, because most of them, I'm sure they think that this is impossible. And I always tell whoever I get a chance to talk to, if you tell yourself that you're going to run, comrades, you can run and you can finish it. So I wanted them to see that I can walk my talk. I'm not just wooing them into something that I can do. And then number three, which is the most obvious, I wanted to, because I was wearing my autism awareness kit, I wanted just people to see and be aware of this thing called autism.
Yeah.
On Facebook, Mike says, awesome motivation. I seem to be having technical issues between YouTube and Facebook, so the comments aren't coming on the screen, but comments from Mike is awesome motivation. Mike is quite keen to come and do Comrades, so this is right up his alley right now. So let me ask each of you the question then, because if you listen to the famous Coach Perry says you need to do a minimum of 1,500 kilometers to finish and have a good race. And for those who have joined in, Zina's got a different finish story. Bev's got a different event day story. Pete's got a different story. And I'm going to ask each of them to take us through briefly what their journey was like between January to race day. What was that journey like for each of them? And then we'll come back to race day. So let's start with Pete, then I'll go Zina, and then I'll go Bev. So Pete, what was your preparation like for Comrades?
So this year, I don't think it could have been less consistent, which is really the opposite of where we need to be. So January, had a slight calf problem. I think because I got excited in December and started to do probably a little bit too much. And so then I had to back it off a little bit. And by the time that came back, probably early in Feb, I guess, I was almost staring down the barrel then, because you look at all of a sudden you're running out of time to a degree. So I hadn't really done a lot in January. February, I started to, as I remember, I started to pick up a few miles, try to get some consistency in terms of weekly mileage. And then clearly just tried to extend some longer runs. That moved into March, and again, it's just really a case of just trying to build the weekly totals, and then dropping down every fourth week, and then popping back up again for another 3. So that was the general way it goes until I got to about 6 weeks out, and then I had a problem with one of my knees, which meant that I had to stop running for 2.5 weeks. And at 6 weeks out, it couldn't be a worse time. Those were the weeks where I should have been doing all the high mileage, high volume, time on my feet work, and I simply couldn't do it. And you mentioned Coach Parry. I had a brief. We were watching their podcast in the lead up to it, and one of the things they said was, "If you've got a problem, get it sorted now." And that was around the time that I had a problem. So I've been seeing a physio, osteo guy monthly anyway for maintenance, as I have done for a long time, and he, he did exactly what I needed him to do. We checked it out, we rested it, and ultimately after 3 weeks I could run again. But of course I was then 3 weeks out, so it was a case of just trying to keep mobile. I swam a lot in that 2.5 weeks to 3 weeks where I couldn't run. I did a lot of kilometers in the pool, just kept the cardio up. But in terms of running mileage, I was well short. I'd managed some hill sessions in that time period, sort of February, March. So I'd done some altitude, which was good. Not as much as I'd wanted to, because I would have done some later on. But yeah, I lost some crucial time. And probably without looking at Strava and the records from last year and this year, I would guess I'm probably 300 to 400 miles short of where I was last year. In terms of the mileage to the race day, which when you look at it is quite a fair chunk.
Yeah. So, for sure. Let's talk that day. Zina, what was your preparation like January to race day?
I was consistent with my training, which I think was a proper training from between January and March. End of March, yes. And then since March, I don't know what happened. I was only consistent on the long runs since then.
Okay.
But one thing the favor that I think I did, and it worked, especially for me finishing Comrades, was to incorporate a lot of strength training, because I think that conditioned my legs.
Yeah.
And where I fell short, which I think is something that I need to work on for next year's Comrades, is the speed training. That one was non-existent for this year's preparation. And then, so I trained and did long runs and marathons until beginning of May. So that's when I got to the groin injury, which it just took me off running for the rest of May. So I was like, okay, I'm just now betting on the training that's in my legs, because I couldn't train anything. I think the most I could do, or the maximum kilometers I had, I ran in May. I couldn't even get to 40. It was like the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And just because at some point I would even just go for 5 kilometers just to see if I run, am I gonna feel any pain, because the groin injury was really intense. Because I did a 50 kilometer the first day run on the 4th of May. After that, the next day I couldn't even lift my left leg.
Sure.
I was even considering canceling the Comrades, running the Comrades, until I saw a post, Elton's post on Vitze's Facebook page for sports therapy and massage. So I was like, let me take a chance and see if this is going to help. And it really worked, because after running Comrades, in fact, even during the run, I didn't feel any cramps on my legs. I didn't feel any pain on the groin. If it wasn't for the blisters, I would say I didn't feel any pain throughout the run.
Yeah.
And overall, I think between January and May, which is when I stopped running, the maximum kilometers I did I didn't get to 1.5. I think it's about 1.1, 1.2, but I didn't get 1.5. But before running Comrades, like on a day before, I knew that I was ready to tackle the race, and I was not going to stop until I finished that distance.
Yeah.
Zina on Facebook, Shauna says she loves the reason for you coming back. She loves your personal motivation, something to learn from, and with a confidence, she says that I need to go back to do next year. Ha!
Hey. Well done.
So, Bev, from your perspective, what was your training like? Your preparation to get you to race day?
Well, I mean, I am known for my underpreparedness for events, but I was really proud of myself this time because I had the Coach Parry training plan that's available, and I was properly following it and doing what I needed to do up until really end of April, and I did my last long run. I didn't qualify. I didn't have my qualifying marathon until the 5th of May. So I literally had one shot at it on the very last day that you could do it. Because, we talked about it at home and said, actually, you need to do it when you're ready because you need to have one go rather than having multiple goes, and ruining yourself. So I had a one shot on the 5th of May. And I did my last long run, 22 miles. Went out 2 days later, which I had done all the way through, got 3 steps in and, up the front of my left leg, sort of to the right of my shin, just excruciating pain, just shooting up into my knee. And I was like, it just sort of pulled me up and I was like, I don't know what's going on here. So I thought, oh, okay, fine. So I thought I'll walk a bit and then tried again. And it was way too painful to do anything, so I hobbled back to my car. I was cross and grumpy and fed up, and got myself home, and then went to go and see Sean, who has been looking after both of us, and had a really painful massage to try and get it going again. Left it I think 4 or 5 days just for my legs to settle down. Tried again, exactly the same, and I was like, I don't know what's going on here. So I thought I just need to leave it, let it settle, take some ibuprofen, see if I can manage it. And then went into my qualifying marathon having not really run for 2 weeks. Managed to get that done, qualified with a tiny bit to spare. And then went and had a post-marathon massage. Went out 2 weeks later, so I thought I'd give myself a bit of time because my leg was very, very sore. It hurt going downstairs and stuff, and so I got seen. Then I went out and did 9 miles, and that felt great, and I was like, oh, this is fabulous. Went to go out again on the Tuesday, same incredible pain, and in the end didn't run anything from what was middle of May to race day. I couldn't run at all because it was so painful, and it was only in the last week before Comrades that I could go downstairs without having shooting pains up my leg. So I didn't even know if I was going to make it to race day, but I rocked up in my starting pen right at the very back of the field, having not run and not even knowing whether my race was going to go beyond 3 steps. So I think that was part of the fear. So yeah.
Sure. Interesting that all of you had treatment of sorts with some professional, which people don't realize is part and parcel of your exercise journey. That at some point, more often than not, it should be part of your journey as a recovery tool, not as a rehabilitation tool.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And we're not even gonna get into that because we can do a whole show on that, and we're running out of time. My question to each of you then is, what was race day like for you? In 3, I'm gonna give each of you 3 minutes to tell me what your race day was like. Who wants to go? I'll say Pete for last. Zina will go first, then Bev, then Pete. Zina, what was your race day like?
So I had a plan for the race.
Oh, you did?
And then I did. But just like in life, you plan and then everything can go south in any minute that you didn't plan for. So my plan was to stay with the sub 12-hour bus from start to finish. Started with the bus and it was fun. I enjoyed it from the very first kilometer until around 60th kilometer. Then I started feeling pains underneath my legs, like on the balls of both feet and the toes. So now I hung on to the bus until the 60th kilometer, but the pain was getting too much. Then I fell off the bus because the pain slowed me down. I fell off the bus, and I knew there and then that I'm not going to make the cutoff because the bus was so on time that by the time we crossed the half kilometer mark, like the 45th kilometer mark halfway, we were on 6 hours.
There you go.
So we had 6 hours to finish the rest of the race. So when my pace dropped and I fell off the bus at 60th kilometer mark, I knew I wasn't going to make the cutoff. So now the plan of the race had to change. And I told myself, okay, now I just need to be aware of where are the cutoffs on the route. Because now that's what I was fighting for, that I shouldn't be cut off on the route. I had to cross that finish line.
Yeah.
So I was praying that whatever happens, I must get to the finish line. So fortunately, there was those Toyota Hilux that were driving through with the time.
Yes.
So on the side, they had stickers that are showing where is the cutoff and then what time of the cutoff. And so I was calculating my pace based on those. And by the time I crossed the last cutoff, which is the nine kilometers to the finish, it was because the cutoff was supposed to be at 11 hours. I crossed there at 10:58:45. So it was just a minute.
Yeah.
And when I crossed that, because it was after we climbed the hill, we climbed the hill and then there is the cutoff place.
Yes.
By the time I got to see the time, I think I had like 100 meters. I crossed that cutoff place line, and I was like, okay, now I don't care what happens from here, because I was running now with my heels. I couldn't put the front part of my feet down because of the pain. I was like, I don't care what happens from now. At least even if it takes me 13 hours, at least I'm gonna go, because I was like, I don't want to see a did not finish next to my name. I can miss the medal, it's okay. But I'm not, if it means I have to cross that finish line crawling, then so be it. But I am not stopping.
Sure.
So I ran, I think, until I was left with 7 kilometers. So then I started running and walking, running and walking. When I was left with 3Ks, then the Toyota Hilux came in again. So it was 10 minutes before cutoff time, and I had to run 3 kilometers. And I was like, there's no chance. So I just walked the rest of it.
Yeah.
But when I crossed that finish line, like I said before, the way I felt like I just conquered the world. And thinking backwards, I was like, I felt pain around 60th kilometer mark. That means I ran 28 kilometers with blisters, and I couldn't remember how I did it because I was just fighting. And then I remembered, I think throughout the race, I passed 3 water points with the Toyota supporters that had the placards that were saying, "You're gonna want to stop, don't." And I was like repeating those words in my mind. At some point, I wanted to stop, but I was like, no, I'm not stopping. I am not stopping. I have to cross that finish line, and I did.
Yeah.
And that's a story of perseverance and commitment, because even though you knew you're not going to make it, you still wanted to prove to yourself that you could cross that finish line under your own steam and your own hard work. So well done to you.
Definitely.
Dudu says, you are my inspiration, Z. Boosie says, you're such an inspiration, very patient and kind.
Thank you so
Bev,
much.
what was your experience of the day? Because you said you ran nothing for the month leading up to the event, and now suddenly you thrust into the limelight, and you got to run a race that you that you're not well prepared for, and feeling like you like a bit sore when you walk down the stairs.
Yeah, so I got in my starting pen, and immediately you make friends with people, don't you? You share your stories, you share your motivation and where you've come from, and then just the whole thing of the start was just absolutely phenomenal. I've cried so many times en route, not from any awfulness, but just from a swelling, overriding emotion that just kept spilling out of me from the music and the singing and the support, just so many people. So I got going, and I was doing okay. My legs started to hurt at about 10k, and I thought, this is okay, I'll manage this with run walking, and it just the whole thing just carries you and carried me and the shouts of go lady was just incredible, because we are a very small percentage of the race as a female runner, and that gave me a sense of pride as well. I desperately wanted to finish, and people were so kind and generous with their support and encouragement. And I remember one lady, I had my charity running top on for the organisation that I work for, which is called Next Chapter. And she just pinned me with her eyes, and she said, "Next chapter." She said, "I see you." And I was like, "Oh my word, that must have taken me for another 10k," because she was just incredible. And then another lady, you do the hand slap, and she just got hold of my hand. She just gave me a squeeze, and that was like a bear hug. It was unbelievable. And but it just got more and more painful. The walk running got to the point where I just couldn't run, and I kept trying, and the bit that I couldn't do was run downhill, which was the most frustrating thing of all, because in the end I got to 52k, and when I couldn't walk properly, and I absolutely couldn't run anything at all, I had to make the decision to call it. And that decision was taken probably over about 15k as I hobbled and tried to eke myself through. And then you come to the point where I didn't know what I was doing to myself. And I didn't know whether I was just going to have damaged myself so that I would be out for 6 months. And it was this backwards and forwards. And in the end, I decided that I needed to call it. Of course, now, you look back and you think, was I really as bad as that? Could I have gone further? And I have to satisfy myself with, in the moment, I knew that I couldn't do any more than I did. And I had to get on a Baylor bus. And all I would say to anybody is, if you can do anything to move yourself forward, then do that instead of getting on the bus.
What was that moment like, coming to that realization that my race is now done? Because many of us, and I say this with the greatest respect, many of us don't have that feeling, because we push through like Zina to get to the end. What was that moment like for you when you said, I literally can't anymore? What went through your head and your heart?
Oh, I mean, it felt crushing. I felt, I guess, ashamed of myself, if I'm entirely honest. I felt like I was an imposter to everything. But then also I knew that because I'd taken the decision over such an amount of time where I tried to push and push and push, I had given myself targets. So the furthest that I'd ever run before was 50k. So I was determined that I was at least going to meet that and get beyond that. And then for me to get to the top of Botus Hill, so that I felt like I had at least achieved the majority of the climbing in that first part of the course. So I set myself some places that that enabled me to salvage some pride coming out of it. But it was, yeah, I didn't want to be seen after that. I didn't want anyone to look at me because I felt like I'd let myself down. It was pretty awful.
The fact that you got to the start line, the fact that you prepared, the fact that you ran over 50 kilometers in an event where you knew you were doubtful of running more than 500 meters is a massive achievement on its own, Bev. And take courage that you got to that point, and that you were adult enough to admit that at this point, to year and no further, for the benefit of coming back to run again next year. That should be the take home more than anything else.
Thank you.
Definitely.
You know, Pete, you are the victor here. You got a back to back. What was that experience like? Take us through your experience.
So I mentioned I came in probably undercooked, and I'd actually not run a marathon since October last year, which was when I qualified. So I'd missed all that, the big stuff. So I had a little degree of how's it going to go, and I'd qualified in a batch that was way further forward than actually I deserved to be, given on my current pace and ability at the time. So I was really conscious I was surrounded by people who were just going to be a lot faster than I was. And my thought from the off was, I've got to ignore all of that, and I've just got to do my own thing. And that's difficult when everyone's running past you. And I suppose I got to the top of Polly's, ready to run down. It was nice to see an old friend, and go the right way down it this time. But I took my top off there. I was pretty hot when I got to the top of there. Ran down Polly's, and then thought, right, we're in this now. And I'd adopted a strategy of run 4 minutes, walk 1 minute. That was what was going through my watch. And I was doing, if I could stick to that, fantastic. If there was a hill in the way, then I'd probably walk a fair proportion of it. Try and get to the top of the hills at least no more tired than I was when I started at the bottom of them, just to try and give myself a chance. And when I could, I ran 4 and 1. When I couldn't, I'd walk hills and make the most of any downhill. So yeah, it was the first half of the race. I felt like I needed to get to halfway, and then I'd given myself a good chance of getting home in a reasonable time. And that reasonable time, as far as I was concerned, was 12 hours. So the second half, there's a lot more. It offers you much more time on your feet to run. And on that basis, it's a much more positive end to the race. And I think that I personally came to the finish line, except for the fact that I thought the finish line was before it was actually. But then everyone's got that same problem, haven't they? Because of that big white gantry that was a big ghost finish line, which was fine actually. But it just meant I went from further out, so that was fine. The second half of the race was really good. It started to hurt. It started to hurt a lot. My legs weren't ready for that. They weren't ready for the relentless downhill. But you know, as we've talked about many times, you find something, don't you? You just keep moving forward. And of course, if you can do that for long enough, then you're okay. But I was fortunate enough to just be able to keep moving and get to the end. So yeah, I was really pleased. And back to back, yeah, over the moon, absolutely over the moon. So
what was it feeling like crossing the line and getting your second medal?
Well, okay,
because let me talk it there, because at that point I get Bev and she's standing amongst the crowd just like, I'm waiting for this guy. He's taking rather long.
Yeah, I'm ready for a cup of tea. What's going on? Can I get a move on?
She's enough, and she's waiting for you, and you coming almost like you're strolling into the finish there, Pete.
Yeah, well, it was was a different finish, wasn't it, this year? I quite liked it actually on the road. I know that's probably controversial, but I quite liked it. It felt like a big city marathon finish. It felt like a spectacle. I'm not saying it didn't last year, because it did, but I understand why people want to change it. But crossing the line, I was pretty emotional from seeing the finish line. There were some tears along there, and when I finished it, I was just incredibly elated. A massive sense of relief, and it was. Yeah, I don't think there's any finish like it, to be honest. But
absolutely. Let me get to some of the comments. So Sean says, "Well done, Bev. Such an inspiration. Thank you for giving us insights into your mental battle as well." Tess says, "Thank you for being real." Charlie says, "A massive well done and a huge congratulations to all of you for running the Comrades. You are inspiring." And then Shelly says, "Love this. Thank you, Zina. You inspire me to do difficult things and keep us motivated at Table View." DNA says, "Not bare feeling like she felt after running 50 kilometers. Some of us struggle just to drive 40 kilometers. It takes a superhuman to do that." So massive well done, and thank you for inspiring us with your stories. It keeps us going. Odwa asked the question. Where's Odwa's question? Does it even start in January? I doubt it, but would love to hear the feedback. Odwa, it doesn't start in January. It starts the year before, when you have to qualify first and foremost for Comrades. And there's a window from August through until May that you have to qualify for Comrades Marathon, where you have to run a marathon in under 5 hours. And then your training only starts. Once you've qualified, then now the hard work starts. And on average, people say 1,500 kilometers from Jan to June is what's going to give you a reasonably comfortable finish. There's no guarantee. Zina will tell you, as much as you do the training, Pete will tell you, as much as you do the training, Babe will tell you, with as much training as you have, come race day, anything is possible. Absolutely anything can change.
Yes.
So in closing, I'm going to ask each of you to tell us why you would recommend us to do running or any form of activity sport-wise. Let's start with Bev. We go to Zina, and then we'll end with Pete. As your closing comment.
Oh, crikey. I just think that the benefits of it for all of your life, it's not just about the time that you're running. It's about your increased confidence in yourself, in your own ability, what your body can do for you, what it does for your mind, and then what it does for the rest of your life in terms of the confidence it gives you to tackle all of the really, really difficult stuff that life throws at us. I think that running and exercise and being outside in nature gives you a sense of resilience and ability to cope. So I would recommend it to anybody in whatever form that takes. It's all relative. You don't have to run Comrades to take the benefits of it. Running 5K, walking 5K, getting out, doing it with other people as well. I think you see a transformation in your life and how you approach things.
Absolutely. Zina, from your perspective, before you get there, Mike says, such authenticity and transparency has been truly inspiring and motivating. Thank you. Zina, from your perspective?
I would say if one wants to be a better person, just general, you have to give running a chance. And the thing is with running, one thing that people need to know, it's not about being fast, it's about keep moving forward. So if you want to be a better person, in general, being able to handle your emotions in a reasonable way, you have to give running a chance. Number two, if you are tired of paying thousands on therapies, taking antidepressants that I gave them a chance. They didn't really do much for me. It's running that I can say saved me. Then you have to give running a chance. And also, if you want to really know yourself, because with running, especially long distances, you get to a point whereby you realize even the strength that you never thought you had in you. So if you want to meet the real you, you meet the real you on the road.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Michelle Jones says inspiring stuff. Well done, Pete and Bev. Proud of you both. From Michelle and Katie. Pete, closing comments from you?
So, from a running point of view and a life point of view, there are some troublesome times through life. There are some difficult things to get around, move over, move past, and I think running offers an opportunity to tackle those things. One of many things, but activity, exercise, running, whatever it might be, engage in something that allows you to probably escape from whatever it is that is that's troubling you, and it's often a good conduit to move forward. So yeah, that would be mine. That would be my advice.
And Sandy Jacob says, well done and congratulations to all of you. You are all inspiring. And irrespective of what the outcome was on Sunday, I know that all of you will be back. Maybe not the Comrades. Maybe not the Comrades. Oh, definitely. Oh, we definitely be back. But you'll be back in 3 weeks' time on the road. You'll be back next week running again. And it's not just about Comrades. It's a lifestyle. It's a change that you've experienced. It's an opportunity to connect with people. It's an opportunity to do things differently. And like all of you said, it's an opportunity to learn things and implement it in your daily lives, which is what sport is about. Thank you to the three of you. Thank you everybody that's joined us. We'll be back next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. A range of different guests talking on different topics, but same underlying principles that sport changes people's lives indefinitely. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This is Talk at 8. My name's Alton. See you next week. Ciao.